everybody? Your boy Pat back again with another edition of Second Take, where I talk tech and I speak sports. Today's topic of the day is Tom Brady really the GOAT? Now, what I wanted to do was kind of go over some guidelines of why I feel like we should include another player who never really gets his due, and that guy is Drew Brees. Now, for instance, let's just look at the stats real fast. So Drew Brees plays 17 years in the league. He has a 66.9% completion percentage. He has 70,455 yards, 488 touchdowns, 228 interceptions, and 96.7 rating in 249 games. Tom Brady, on the other hand, has played 18 years, 63.9% completion, less than Drew Brees, 66,159 yards, less than Drew Brees, 488 touchdowns, oddly enough tied with Drew Brees, 160 interceptions, less than Drew Brees, and a 97.6 rating, better than Drew Brees. He's played 253 games, 4 more games than Drew Brees. Now, I wanted to go and say, the first thing I wanted to talk about was, when we talk about the GOAT, a lot of people say Tom Brady's the GOAT because he's done it for so long, he's been excellent for so long, and he's got 5 Super Bowl rings. Now, I'm not really big into comparing rings. I mean, that's a team accomplishment in my opinion. So Tom Brady, in my opinion, gets a lot of credit for being on a really good team. And I'll get into some other things that I want to talk about, like his crappy division he plays in. But he's got 5 wins. He's got 3 losses. Joe Montana, 4-0. So for me, if you want to compare GOAT statistics and players and say, hey, he's the GOAT because, you know, he's got these rings, well, Joe Montana was a perfect 4-0. So I'm going to dismiss the ring argument for now. And what I'm going to say is, let's just talk about his peers. And one guy that I feel doesn't get enough respect in this GOAT argument is Drew Brees. And he actually plays in the same time frame that Tom Brady's playing in. He's literally played since the early 2000s, just like Tom Brady's played since the late 1990s. And they've basically played for almost 20 years each. So very comparable guys, very comparable times that they're playing in. So I thought I'd just throw Drew Brees' name into that argument. Now, I'm not saying Drew Brees is the GOAT. I could argue that he is. But what I'm really saying is we need to give a lot more credit to Drew Brees and what he's done over the years. Now, what I'm going to go on record for is say Drew Brees really hasn't been the recipient of good defenses. Now, I did all the math, I did all the numbers, did a lot of research, and here's what it boils down to. Drew Brees effectively, when he plays on a team, whether the New Orleans Saints or the San Diego Chargers, has led his teams to the 7th best offense in the league. Points per game. I'm not doing yards. I'm doing points per game. Tom Brady, when he plays for New England Patriots, obviously he hasn't played for any other team, he leads his team to the 5th best. So he's a little bit better than Drew Brees, but Drew Brees is right there. Defense is where it's a really different story. Drew Brees has had teams that have the 20th on average best defense. I don't know if you want to call that best, but it's pretty bad. So there's 32 teams in the league. They essentially have had a bottom third defense basically for his whole career. And Tom Brady's played with teams that on average have been the 8th best defense in the league. So big difference there, big disparity, and I feel like that's the reason why Tom Brady, or one of the reasons why Tom Brady has been able to take advantage of all of his opportunities to actually be in the Super Bowl this many times. The other reason I want to point out is Tom Brady plays in a division known as the AFC East. I did the numbers on this, and it's really bad. It's really bad. So I'm just going to spit it out. So the Patriots, since 2001 into 2017, have a 209-63 record. The next closest in that division is the Dolphins, and they are barely over 500. They are 139 and 135. 4 games over in 17 years. And then it gets worse. The Jets are 128 and 144, and the Bills are the worst, 113 and 159. So this is what I've been saying to people for the longest, and now I decided to make a video on it. Tom Brady essentially, just chalk it up, he's going to get 5 wins in the East every year. Maybe 6 because they may sweep the whole division on average. Now, with that said, let's give him 5. So that means he's got 11 games left in the season. If he goes 6-5, barely over 500, you're going to go 11-5 and you're going to win the division, in which they've won the division many, many times since he's been in the league. Now, on top of that, they get the bye because they're usually a 1 or a 2 seed. Most likely they're a 1. And then when they come off of that bye, as per NFL seedings and how they play the divisions or the playoffs, they get the worst seed that's remaining out of that first round. So essentially they get a bye because of an easy division. They're easily slotted into that bye. The next round they get to play the worst team that's remaining, and then they're in the AFC Championship game, and they're usually at home and they usually win. And that's their one tough game, and then they go to Super Bowl, and where he becomes essentially another 500 quarterback. He's 5-3. He's 1 loss away. So essentially, if Atlanta didn't blow that lead, he'd be 4-4. And I feel Tom Brady's been a beneficiary of just being in the right place at the right time. Now, I also want to talk about 5,000-yard seasons. So the rules today are all skewed towards the quarterback and the wide receiver. Now, with that being said, the only guy who ever threw for anywhere close to 5,000 yards at one point before all of these rule changes was Dan Marino, when he threw for 4,800 plus yards. Now, with that said, though, let's talk about today. Like I said, I don't want to go back into the past. I want to talk about today's quarterback. So in today's world, out of all the guys, it's like 8 or 10 seasons of 5,000 yards. I'll probably put it up here somewhere where it actually says, what the exact is. I'll put a picture up maybe too. But Drew Brees has four 5,000-yard seasons. No other quarterback has more than 1, and most have none. So in today's world, Drew Brees, to me, he's excelled more than any other quarterback. So that's another reason I wanted to bring up about how I feel like Drew Brees doesn't get a lot of respect in this game. The last thing I will bring up is Tom Brady has 5 Super Bowls. His first 3 were decided on field goal kicks. Adam Vinatieri. So with that being said, I'm not taking anything away from Brady's performances in the Super Bowl, but he was basically a kick away from not winning Super Bowls. Obviously, they won by 3, so it was tie games. I understand that. Don't comment. Don't at me, bro. Don't comment about that. But Tom Brady's had 3 Super Bowls where essentially things were decided by a kick, not by Tom Brady. I mean, we're all familiar with the Joe Montana pass to the back of the end zone. I mean, all these highlights that Joe Montana was involved in. We don't really have a lot of Brady highlights in the Super Bowl. A lot of kickers. But with that being said, he did win the Seattle game 28-24. People could go on record and say, hey, Pete Carroll should have ran the ball instead of passed the ball. That was a big thing. And then the other one, they were down 28-3 and came back. Greatest comeback ever. I'm not going to discredit him for that. But, bad clock management by Atlanta. So for me, is Tom Brady really the GOAT? There's a lot more to the discussion, I feel, than just what's at the surface value or the surface that most people like to bring up. So what are your thoughts? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.